All right, hey, what's going on, my friends? Good evening, good morning, good day, wherever in this fine world you may be. As I'm recording this video, this is your boy Dark Lord Turgon coming at you with a new video. And today we're going to recap my 8th season playing Lord of the Rings: Rise to War. Today our season ended. So let's go to the recap. First, I'll show you the map. Here's the map. This is the final map. Nothing has changed since the season ended about 6.5 hours ago. And at this point, probably some of the prestige and the season contribution rankings may have changed because people, even though the season's over, they keep fighting, for fun and as you would expect. So what we'll do is we'll walk you through real quick kind of each of the phases of this War of the Ring campaign. One of the newer aspects of this is that each of these waypoints was accompanied by some kind of an event or another. For example, in this one, there wasn't so much of an event, just as we were just waiting for Frodo to reach Bree, and we were pretty close to making this one. But the next one, I think when he reaches Weathertop, or just before, there is an event of some kind where there will be like almost like a world boss that appears on the map, and you can send and attack it from anywhere on the map, and it's pretty much automatically a 10-minute march from wherever in Middle Earth you may be. And I could be getting confused. Actually, here's the event, I believe. No, it's just a book. Never mind. It might be here somewhere, but I'm not gonna make you all watch me try to figure out something. It could be part of this. Yeah, this is it. Sauron's forces win 4 times. Once you get into this hurried pursuit, there's these like world bosses that appear. We almost finished this one too. I think that light side has a little bit of an advantage on these early events because they're out in the west, and the good side has a little bit more of a presence out there than we do, at least in terms of this season that I'm playing on this server. We had plenty of people playing up in Gundabad and in Isengard, but we also had a fair number of players out in Rune and a few in Mordor, so they weren't really able to help too much out in the west, other than with these events, because we could attack the boss from all the way across the map. I don't know how many players already knew about that. It took me quite some time into the event to realize that, hey, even though I'm all the way on the other side of the map, I could still attack this thing, and in 10 minutes, it's an automatic 10-minute march, which is pretty nice. Um, the thing with hitting the world boss that I would just want to flag for everyone is you don't know what's going to happen when you when you hit that send button, what the situation is going to be like 10 minutes from now. So like you could be hitting a bunch of PvP armies and lose a bunch of troops and get very little in return, or you could be hitting the actual world boss and killing like three, four, five, six, seven of those armies. And if you get that, then you can actually get quite a bit of experience for your commander in that one hit, which is really nice. So it's kind of a roll of the dice. And I think also in terms of evil farm, I feel like good has a little bit more of an advantage farming earlier than evil does, even though evil has a whole bunch of gathering commanders. That's to try to offset the fact that good has incredible early season farm. And at least for me, and an inexperienced evil player entering the season. This was my first season playing evil, but for me personally, I did not participate in these events as much as I think I could have because I was just focusing on trying to get myself farmed and developed as quickly as I could during that first week of the season. And towards that end, I had T4 units 10 days into the season. I think it was the fastest that I had ever unlocked a T4 unit in any season that I've played in my 8 seasons playing Lord of the Rings: Rise to War. So that's the deal with this whole blurb. And then, of course, he goes to Rivendell And then once he's in Rivendell, he stays there for a little bit. And then he starts making his way down into Moria. Not so close on that. After he hits this, there's another event that triggers where you can fight Balrog. And Good did really well on this, to be honest. Like we had a good shot at taking this, but we were focusing more on the Balrog, some of us, and others were focusing on trying to clear out Good. And if everyone had focused on one or the other, I think we could have done better. But because some of us were focusing on one important objective and some of us were focusing on another important objective all at the same time, it sort of like shoestrung our ability to do well in that event. And Good took advantage of that, and kudos to them. They won that event. But on the plus side, when that happened, when we realized that we were going to lose that event, we quickly went and took two regions that were critical towards establishing map dominance. And so it was ultimately a good trade for us. Like, sure, here you can win this event, and we're going to go for what's more strategically important when you consider the season as a whole. So that was that mission. And then he comes down after he leaves. He comes down and he ends up over at, the Argonath. And we had taken the Argonath and we'd just be good to it. And they tried really hard to get into the Dead Marshes through the critical crossing by Argonath, and we were able to hold them. They really never established themselves well in Dead Marshes. They got in there and they moved around a little bit and they were a little bit of a pain there with some pathing and stuff, but they never had, you know, they never gained a foothold on that ground. We had taken Emyn Muil, and then after we stopped them over here, there was fighting happening over at Minas Tirith. We had one warband that basically was able to penetrate Minas Tirith and establish dominance over that area, while the remainder of the evil side was holding the critical crossing over by um, the Argonath. And after we took the Argonath and grabbed the area in front of Minas Tirith, we then came down and took Osgiliath, and that took a time, and that was stressful, but really, really satisfying when we were finally able to break through and take it. And then after we took Argonath, the Good was moving towards taking Emyn Muil, and we were able to push them back and take Eastamnet. So that was really a critical time when we were able to secure Eastamnet, Emyn Muil, Osgiliath, and the area in front of Minas Tirith. Now, you cannot capture Minas Tirith at this point in the campaign. It is locked until that event begins. And that event begins when Frodo makes it through the Dead Marshes and reaches um, the Black Gate. So, what's happening while he's in the Dead Marshes is there's an event over at Helm's Deep, and we were able to win that one while all this is going on. So there was a lot going on at that point. Let me just come over to that's Edoras. There's Helm's Deep. I think part of the meter might, yeah, this damage state is like stuck, even though the event's long since been over. And that was a huge one. That was tough. But the thing that was really cool about this event was that, let me come over to Isengard here. Isengard had these fortresses set up, and you could send an army to. I was played Rune, so I could send to the Rune Fortress, and wherever on the map you were, it's a 10-minute march. So it was a really quick, easy way, and I'll demonstrate that for you right here now. 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Doesn't matter. Wherever you are, 10-minute march. So there was another fortress. There's another fortress here. It was a good and a bad fortress. This one was, I think, Isengard, and this one was Mordor. But those got taken out, and there was a lot of fighting at this area. Not during this particular time that I was talking through, but later in the season, there was a lot of fighting that happened at this tunnel. So Let me come back into here. So we won the Battle of Helm's Deep, and then Frodo made it to the Black Gate, and then Minas Tirith opened, and we took Minas Tirith, and then it took a really, really, really long time. The events kind of everything kind of slowed down quite a bit. I think because evil was winning, but it could just organically be this like slow of a progression where like it would take like a week to go from each of these missions. So then after we took Minas Tirith and Frodo reached the Black Gate, Frodo never really got any farther. He made it to Minas Morgul, and then he's been asleep there ever since. We fully corrupted him because we had taken Minas Tirith. So then after that happened, we started working to take all the lands of Rohan, and we were able to take Edros. And it was not easy to do. It was not easy to do any of this. All of this was blue over in here. This is all blue. Um, we had to take this, and a lot of people kind of on both sides, good and evil, after we took Minas Tirith, kind of was, when Frodo got corrupted, fully corrupted. I think a lot of people stopped playing. They're like, "Oh, the season's over." But as it turns out, where is it? There's this full siege, and without this, you don't get this. So we had like, oh God, I think we had like 19 control points after we had taken Minas Tirith and Frodo was corrupted, and we're like, we have a lot of control points we need to get if we're gonna get this banner. So we had to kick it in high gear. It took a while, and we were finally able to secure the last control points that we needed. I think it was like literally yesterday we wrapped this up, and then Good has been pestering us all across the map, as you can see from the map. There's just flags everywhere. This season was absolutely nuts. There was just action everywhere, all over the map. Look at all these pins. 5 pins up here, 3 pins over here, 7 pins in the center of the map. It's just been nuts. The season was crazy. I ended up with I think it's 4.7 million prestige. Yeah, a lot of fighting, all season long. If you come over to the leaderboard here, I mean, if you look up here, the top had 6 million, 5 million, four. We had a total of 7 players with over 4 million prestige. We had a total of 14 players with over 3 million prestige. We had a total of holy, like, I want to say around this guy probably is a cutoff, about 21 contribution, because it took me about I had to get to like almost like to point three of the next, like it would need to be like 23,000 for me to hit actually like the next level in the prestige, because not everything that goes into this contribution score is prestige, right? So I'm gonna say 33 people had 2 million prestige. 33 people, maybe as many as 38 or 39, and the number of players that had over a million prestige on the evil side here is absolutely bonkers to me. Like it could be like 100 people. Literally, it could be 100 people. So really, a lot of activity on the evil side, and we needed it. If you wanted to take a look, also um, at the rankings. Sorry, I keep clicking out of here instead of just clicking down here. There's a bunch of people. This guy was a huge Kraken for the good side. He was our Kraken for the evil side. Um, Not really much to see in terms of the ring level, personal production. He had a couple of guys 50,000 production. I never fought this guy ever once the whole season. So, farmer, this guy I fought a little bit. Never saw this guy, to be honest. Who is this guy? Did he change his name or something? No, I've never saw this guy all season either. I'm sure he did something. No, he probably just farmed. He was just another farmer. He's Cyril. He's in from one of the two main war bands. So, a lot of farmers, but you look at warband contribution, or I'm sorry, warband production. Yeah, we made it to the top two teams on the evil side. The third highest team was this dark team. Legion, not very strong team. Good farmers, but Phoenix did okay. Wreck had some good players. Cast had some decent players, but um, we were able to bring it home. It was a hell of a season. Let me take a couple minutes now here to kind of walk you through the progression of my commanders from over the course of the season. I started the season, my Caldun was like reputation 5. I was able to get him up to 13. I unlocked and got Witch King up to reputation 5. And I started the season with a reputation 5 Grima. He's now rep 10. I unlocked Sauron and got him to 5. I have Gothmog at 5. I have Lurtz at 5. I unlocked Undying and I'm close to getting him to 5. And I have a Reputation 12 Gorebag. Um, Mostly I just used Armored Sauron this season at choke points in defensive positions. If a keep was being attacked, stick an Armored Sauron there. You get 60 Armored Saurons on a spot, it's going to be really tough to take it because even weak Armored Saurons, and what I mean by weak is they have like blue gear or barely leveled purple gears. And gear makes a huge difference in this game. The higher your gear is, the more stats you get. The more stats you get, the stronger your commander is. It's really simple kind of logic there. In terms of what I did with him, I went for just maximum carnage. 18% damage to mounted units from this Bane of Mounted Units, plus all this other stuff. Then I also took some damage away from the melee, 6% damage to melee, and also buffed defensive melee units by 15. We went with the Aegis, so no stun, no madness over the first 4 rounds, 83% of the time, and then buff the range damage a little bit. And then Bane of Dwarves here on the drums for another 18%. So dwarf units, 18%, mounted units, 18%, a dwarf mounted unit, 36%. So I absolutely massacred war rams with or ram riders. I forget what I think they're ram riders is what they're called. The dwarf T3 mounted unit. He's a lot of fun. I'll miss playing with him. He was good. He regains stamina like insanely slow. Like it basically is like 9 hours and 15 minutes to regain 20 stamina. So you have to manage him really well. Um, don't use him for a while, get that stamina up, and then go nuts for a day, and then throw him on a choke point while he regains stamina. Khaldun, I went with, you know, I buffed chariots with every piece of gear that I had. Large unit, a chariot's considered a large unit. You want to check on that? You can click on where it says large unit and scroll down. There's chariots. So buffs large unit attack by 75 and the regular army by 5. And then I like this Rend ability. Really, the only ability that I would prefer other than Rend would be Frenzy. And then we come over to the Massive Breastplate, more defense, large unit. There's a large unit. If you want to double check it, it's down here. And then even more defense, large unit from this Resilience of Giants trait. Horseman Helm. This doesn't not affect everything, but it does happen to affect War Chariots because they're considered both a mounted unit and a large unit. Now, my troop composition for Khaldun was I liked to use dragoons, about 500 of those, about 1,000 fallen, and then about 180 war chariots. So these two pieces of gear buffed mounted units. These two pieces of gear buffed large units. So all 4 of them buffed um, the chariots, but only these 2 pieces buffed the mounted units. And then I could heal them also, which is really nice. This is a really nice piece. So this build really, really worked really, really well for me. 4.7 million prestige, probably 3 million of it I got just with this guy alone. I literally just used him as a thug all season, and he's a beast. In terms of the skill build, I'll show that to you real quick. Hunt down is a great, great skill. That's why I prioritized it, but I still did put a few points in here. And why not? Because what am I going to do? Put these 2 points in here and buff it up to 8. That's going to get him up to 30%. That's a 6% difference. This gives him 35%. So that's what I'm trading. 6% for 35%. I think it's a good trade. Tell me if I'm wrong. Easterling, Iron Guard, Evil Alliance, Marshal of the East, Mark, Tribal Tactics, and Quicksand. Huge commander, just absolutely disgusting. Witch King I really just used for farming. Occasionally I would send him into combat if I thought I might run against something. I had Bane of Dwarves on him earlier, but then I decided to put it on Armored Sauron because I just wanted him to be good against as many different types of units as possible. And then I had this Palantir that buffed melee units by 2%, which I thought was nice. Because he does a lot of burn damage, and alchemists are melee units, so that made sense. And then you want warding on him, because Gandalf counters him pretty hard, so you might have a chance at living if you have some stun immunity, 6% damage reduction to melee, and 9% melee might from the Cutlass. Skill build is really, really simple on him. You want to max Black Captain, you want to max Convener, you want to max Ring Wraith, and you want to max Nazgul Screech as fast as possible. What you do after that is completely up to you. His R5 is basically useless unless you're using Fell Beasts, so don't even bother. But Chaotic Retreat would be really cool to have. I went with 2 in Lord of the Nazgul and 1 in Break Defenses, and I think this build is okay. With Grima, I gave him a Carver with Smite, the Scale Mail, Bone Mask for the Hysteria, and Heath's Lane, plus Army HP, plus melee defense. I use all melee on him, I think, and some heal. In terms of the skill bill, the way that I like to use him, second in command, a little bit more damage, a little bit more focus, and then the discipline, army defense 35. Survivor, after round 4, since it's maxed out, all allied units take 30% less damage. It's huge. Prudence, during the first 2 rounds, there's a 50% chance for all units to evade damage. But during those 2 rounds, your damage goes down by 30%. So it's a little bit of a trade. He's a survivor, right? Wizard Assistant, 10 points in there, some poison damage. You really want the 10 points just so you can put 5 in lower defenses. You got 2 in your Worm Tongue to madden the commander. You do 1 in Master of Mischief to inflict madness on 2 enemy targets in round 2. And Enfeeble to do a little bit more madness damage to units while they're maddened. So that's my Grima. And then I messed around with Sauron a little bit. I gave him this Warhelm with Discord, which is kind of nice. Carver with Smite, Scale Mail, Heath Lane. You're probably like, how many of these things do you got? You're looking at it. And then for Gothmog, who is just absolutely a siege nut job, I threw this axe on him for fun because I needed someone to put it on and I'd have it and I wanted it to be on someone. I put this on him for no reason, I guess in case he runs into a Galadriel. I'll have a different Brutal helmet that probably would be better, but I stuck this on him for now. I could actually even put this, I just finished leveling a second Bone Mask today, I might do that, but no point, it's the end of the season. The shield is really the only thing that's worth showing you, the extra siege for Uruk-hai, and in case you didn't know this, alchemists are Uruk-hai, okay? In terms of the skill build, I'm going to have to redo this because I changed this recently because I thought he was going to get clapped. You want to do all points in the Morgul Lieutenant. What that does is over the first 4 rounds, Orcs and Trolls do 60% more damage. You want that but you want that for this. You think Kirgon boosts your siege. You think Grishnak or Yushra that buff siege. This guy buffs some serious fucking siege. It's crazy. He's a nut. Orcish Warlord is also really, really good. What you do with him after this is up to you. I put him in second in command, and then I do 2 in discipline, and then one last point I'll put in Overlord. And that's really about it. I mean, I didn't really skill anyone else any sort of a way. I guess I'll talk through Gorebag real quick just because I have pretty gear on him. I was able to get his unique. I'll probably use an Elven Hammer and break this into pieces so I can use them for something else. But I'm going to wait because I have no idea what I'm doing next season yet. And he's got a maxed out Goblin Armor with Orc Vigor to reduce Orc damage by 6%. I only put Orcs on him because he works with Orcs, and I'll show you what I mean when we go through the skill build. Brutal Helmet, it just makes sense on him, you know, a little bit more HP for the melee because he's a lot of melee up front, melee Vigor. So I'm really working to reduce damage to Orcs in melee, and then I gave him Smoking Pipe so he has some heal and extra focus. In terms of the skill build, you want him to have this when orcs. This makes him immune to madness, and this buffs their damage by 30%. So that's nice. And then rage, 30% chance of coming to madness, and then damage plus 60 for 1 round. So that's 90% damage. This is round 2, so and then a point in corrupting curse. Gray leader, orcs damage received negative 15%. You obviously want that. Orcish warlord's really good. Another negative 14% damage received, so that's total 29% between these two. And then you go into the interrogator. Enemy stunned or subject to madness, damage received 53%. And this one inflicts stun, 42.9% chance, so inflicts stun round 3. He does not have, from what I can see, anything that causes madness. So that might be, the bone mask might actually be better for him. That might actually be better. Maybe I'll test that before the season ends. But those are my commanders. That's been the season. It's been a hell of a season. I would have to say this has been my favorite season playing the game. I want to shout out to everyone over in the leadership of Mesh and Some, as well as just all the players in general on both of these teams. And I also want to throw a shout out to the guys over on Dark for all their help, and Searle for all their help. Um, every single player on every single side contributed to some greater or lesser extent towards the outcome of the season, and it was a very, very long season, especially for War of the Ring. The season went a little more than 8 weeks, and the last time I played War of the Ring, we had this thing wrapped up in 6, so it felt long to me. Um, but it was very, very action packed. There was a lot of fighting. So so much fighting. A couple of highlights that I just want to point out to you. I was talking to you earlier. There was a lot of fighting over at the Isengard tunnels. After we took Edoras, Good was like, "Well, we're going to take Orthanc," and they just kept trying to do that. And they took Dunland, and they were holding Dunland, and they had a bunch of bases sitting over here, and they were just feeding Orthanc. And we had to come back several times to stop them and kind of almost like post up or almost freeze like a number of armies to keep that safe. There was some tentative moments up there, to be sure. There was a lot of fighting over at Helm's Deep. They attacked that several times as well. They didn't let us have Edoras easily. There's just so much fighting all over the map. They attacked Eastham like 40 times. Emmenwheel just constantly. Like after we took these lands, the dwarfs would come down from here. Rohan would come down from there. It was just It was constant. And then at one other point, they came down and took Dorwinion, and they had Keldwin Vale for quite a while. They took Dorwinion. Then I had to come over here and literally sit at this crossing for a week and hold off wave after wave of attack with my good friend Kirby and Barbaro, and I think there was some other players from Dark and some who came in and out of some of that fighting. But I just sat here for like literally a week and didn't let them get past this crossing. And that's something that I think Evil really excels at in this type of a campaign with the Armored Sauron. Um, when there were times where I had my Khaldun, my Armored Sauron, and my Grima all sitting on one tile, you weren't going to get that tile unless you came at me with absolute overwhelming force. And for some reason, these opponents very rarely did that to me. They would, send one, see what happens, and okay, yeah, that didn't work. Send another one and see what happens. And I don't know. They don't use clairvoyance a lot, or they kept using their ability points for other stuff. I don't know. Um, but this is the type of season that it was, and it was a lot of fun. And then after we stalled them here and retook Dorwinion. Then they came over and started trying to take Greater Rune because they wanted to get at Kindland, and we fought out here for like probably almost a week as well, and was able to hold, repel them, and then end up ultimately some while we held them off over here. Some came up and took Karnan, and then later, after the area was secured and they started moving to other areas of the map, we retook Keldwin. Some continued their trek through the northeastern corner of the map, taking these four capes, and it was just absolutely nuts. The season was nuts. We took Dol Guldur yesterday. Um, just a lot of action, a lot of activity, a lot of action, a lot of fighting. Shout outs to everyone on both sides really for an incredible season, because when in my previous seasons playing this game, um, you know, it wasn't like this. That's not what I wanted to do at all. I'm just clicking on stuff apparently here and not thinking through what I'm clicking on before I click on it. So, sorry about that. I wanted to show you my banners and talk through a couple seasons before I sign off, but I see now that this video is going for a somewhat obscene amount of time. So if you're still with me, I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Um, like I said, it was a hell of a season. It was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one. These 3 seasons, the outcome of the seasons get determined so early from like politics and stuff. That's one of the things I really like about War of the Ring is it's just go, They set a structure for you with these events. There's a flow to the season, and it's a lot of fighting, and that's what you want in the game. But at any rate, I thank you all again so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you have any questions or comments or feedback, please leave it in the comment section below or reach out to me through Discord or in game. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. Cheers again to everyone who contributed towards this amazing season. I wish you all well in the future. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.